My name is Lauren Jackson, 31, and for the past 3 years, I've been dating Gary Callahan, 33. We didn't live together. He had his apartment. I had mine. We liked it that way. Independence was something we both cherished, or so I thought. Vegas had been our plan for months, our anniversary trip. 4 days, a decent hotel, a few shows, dinners, and indulgence. I'd painstakingly saved $3,000, flights, hotel, meals, entertainment, everything. I wanted it to be perfect, a celebration of us. Then it happened. 2 weeks before departure, my phone buzzed while I was cooking dinner for my mother. She had fallen, broken her hip, and was scheduled for surgery the next morning. "Babe," I said over the phone, my hands trembling slightly, "I need to go help Mom. She's having surgery. She can't be alone." I watched Gary's face over dinner that night, shifting through emotions like a well-rehearsed performance. First, disappointment, then calculation, then, oh, the sympathy, so quick it felt rehearsed. "Oh no, that's terrible. Will she be okay?" he asked, concern laced with something else. "I'll be flying there instead of Vegas," I said softly. "We can postpone the trip." His hand twirled the fork in his pasta. "Or I could still go take Brittany. The hotel's already booked. Seems wasteful not to use it, right?" A chill ran down my spine. Something was off, but my mother was in pain. Family came first. "You're the best," he said, practically bouncing in his chair. "I'll be super careful with money. Maybe just give me one of your cards for emergencies." It should have been a red flag. I paused, watching him smile innocently. "Sure, just for emergencies," I said. Like an idiot, I handed him my visa, the one with a $5,000 limit. The next morning, I was already at my mother's place, helping her settle into the hospital room. As Gary's plane took off, a text appeared. "Mallory, oops, no. I mean, Gary? Boarding now. Don't worry about anything. Focus on your mom. Love you." Sweet, right? I smiled weakly, folding her hospital gown neatly. But Vegas wasn't mine anymore. I spent the first day helping my mom through her surgery prep, then recovery. That night, exhausted, I checked my credit card app. $12,200 already charged. My heart sank. Now restaurant, $340. Some nightclub, $280. Hotel spa, $100. Random retail, $180. A pit opened in my stomach. I texted, "Hey, saw some big charges. Everything okay?" Hours later, a reply appeared. "OMG, prices here are insane, but don't worry, Brittany's paying me back for half of everything." Brittany, not paying her back. My chest tightened. I called. No answer. Texted. Nothing. Then came the message that broke the last thread of patience. A poolside selfie. Caption: "Having the time of my life without you." Something inside me snapped. While I spoon-fed my mother hospital jello, Gary was drinking champagne, taking selfies, spending my money. Bottle service, designer sunglasses, a purse. My emergency card fueling his Vegas spree. I called the credit card company. "I'd like to report my card stolen." "Sorry to hear that, sir. When did you notice?" "I'm traveling for a family emergency," I said. Technically true, but only just. They canceled the card, and I finally let myself breathe. Update 1. The texts started coming in, nonstop. Gary, incredulous. Brittany, furious. My phone exploded. 23 missed calls, 40 texts. Highlights. "WTF? Your card isn't working. This isn't funny. Security at the club thinks I'm scamming them. Call now." I let them go to voicemail. I couldn't. I wouldn't. Not while my mom needed me. By the end of the first day, I realized something chilling. The Vegas trip wasn't just a vacation. It was a test of my loyalty, and I had failed without even realizing it. My love for Gary, my desire to do the right thing for family, had been used against me, and somehow I was supposed to forgive it. The stakes had quietly shifted. Family versus romance, trust versus entitlement. And Vegas? Vegas was already lost. The first night at my mother's hospital room, the beeping of machines felt louder than usual. My mother was finally asleep, her breathing even but fragile. I leaned back in the chair, exhaustion pressing down like a lead weight, and opened my phone. The credit card app glared at me. Another charge, another reminder of Gary's betrayal. Now restaurant, $340. Nightclub bottle service, $280. Hotel spa, $100. Random retail, $180. I stared at the numbers, unable to reconcile the images in my head. Me, sitting by my mother's bed, helping her sip water. Him, smiling with Brittany by the pool, my money fueling every indulgence. Then the poolside selfie arrived. Gary, sunglasses tilted, champagne in hand, the Vegas sun glinting behind him. Caption: having the time of my life without you. My hands shook. Rage, disbelief, heartbreak, all swirling into a bitter cocktail. I texted, "Gary, saw these charges. This isn't what we planned." His reply came hours later. "OMG, babe, prices are insane. Don't worry, Brittany's covering half." I knew it was a lie. I didn't even need to check. The next morning, the text escalated. "Your card isn't working. Restaurants are refusing me. Call me. Security at the club thinks I'm scamming them. Why aren't you answering?" I ignored them. My mother needed me more than this circus, but a creeping sense of dread settled in. Something fundamental had shifted. Gary's care, the love I thought we shared, it was a performance, and I had been played. By the second day, the pattern was undeniable. Each message, each escalating accusation, revealed a truth I had been too blind to see. Gary's sense of entitlement was vast, and my trust was the currency he spent most freely. He framed me as controlling, abusive even, for canceling my own card to protect my finances. I reread his messages, the words dripping with manipulation. "You reported the card stolen? Are you insane? I have expenses. The hotel expects tips. How am I supposed to get food? This is so controlling. You're financially abusive." My chest tightened. This wasn't about Vegas. It wasn't about money. It was about him testing boundaries, pushing, seeing how far he could go without consequence. And I had given him all the rope he needed. That night, I found myself sitting on the edge of my mother's bed, tracing the lines on her hands. She was asleep, and yet I couldn't stop thinking. What kind of man turns a shared dream into a weapon against someone who loves him? I thought of our first anniversary, the careful planning, the excitement we had shared. And now? Vegas was a stage for entitlement, and I was the audience of my own betrayal. I texted Brittany, Gary's friend. "Is he okay? What's happening there?" Her reply was curt. "He's fine, but you need to call him. Like, now." Call him? I stared at my phone. I wanted to scream, to demand he come home and face what he had done. But I didn't. I stayed with my mother, tending to her, protecting her, even as the other woman became complicit, silently or not so silently, in the unraveling of my life. By day 3, the full weight of Gary's actions hit me. The charges weren't just irresponsible, they were deliberate. Luxury handbags, VIP concerts, helicopter tours, all on my card. Money that had been mine, painstakingly saved, transformed into fuel for his selfish pleasure. I realized then that Vegas had never been about us. It had been a test of loyalty, a manipulation of trust. And I had failed not because of anything I did, but because I had loved him, believed in him, and trusted him too easily. That night, as my mother slept peacefully for the first time since surgery, I made a decision. I would protect her, and I would protect myself. If that meant ending the fantasy I had built with Gary, so be it. Vegas had been lost, but my life, my boundaries, and my dignity, I would fight to keep those intact. By the morning of the third day, my phone was a war zone. Notifications screamed at me, and each ping felt like a hammer striking my skull. Gary's texts had evolved from passive-aggressive concern to outright accusations. "How dare you cancel the card? I have expenses. You're controlling, abusive, manipulative. How could you do this to me? Call me right now." I didn't. I couldn't. My mother needed me, and I wasn't about to let Gary's tantrum derail the one thing that mattered. Yet the guilt gnawed at me. Part of me wanted to answer, to apologize, to smooth the jagged edges of this disaster, but the other part, the part that had been alert all along, knew better. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was manipulation. That day, I checked the credit card charges again. Luxury handbags, overpriced sunglasses, a $500 VIP concert ticket, even a helicopter tour over the Grand Canyon. Gary was spending my money as though it were endless. Every purchase a dagger, a reminder of my absence and his entitlement. I called the credit card company. "I'd like to report my card stolen." "Sorry to hear that, ma'am." "When did you notice it?" "I'm caring for a family emergency, and I realize the card is gone," I said, the truth half hidden. Within an hour, the card was canceled, and a replacement was on its way. Relief washed over me, tempered by the rage simmering beneath. The texts didn't stop, they multiplied, now with Brittany added to the chorus. She seemed to genuinely believe Gary's story, that I was the villain, controlling and abusive. "You're ruining our trip. You can't do this," Brittany texted. "He's stuck because of you." I let them ring in voicemail, my focus entirely on my mother. Each time I helped her sit up, took her temperature, or guided her through a physical therapy exercise, I reminded myself my priorities were intact, even if the betrayal threatened to swallow me whole. But then came the guilt-laden accusations, dripping with entitlement. Gary framed me as cruel. "You reported the card stolen. I can't pay for food or tips. You're so controlling. This is abuse." Abuse? The word hit me like a fist. I thought of every night I'd stayed awake by my mother's bedside, every meal skipped to ensure she had water and comfort. And here was Gary, turning his lavish escapades into my crime. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I typed a single message. The card was for emergencies. Bottle service, VIP tickets, shopping sprees, not emergencies. You knew the rules. No reply came, just the echo of betrayal. That evening, exhaustion finally forced me to sit. I curled into the hospital chair, staring at my mother's sleeping form. I realized the depth of what had happened. Gary had prioritized indulgence over commitment. He had weaponized my trust, my love, and my money. His friend Brittany had become a co-conspirator, reinforcing his narrative of victimhood. I felt a cocktail of emotions: anger, disbelief, sorrow, and strangely, clarity. I could see Gary for who he really was. This was never about a vacation. This was a pattern of entitlement, manipulation, and control. And the worst part? I had been complicit, unknowingly. I had given him access, let him dictate terms, assumed our bond was mutual. But Vegas had stripped the illusion bare. By nightfall, I made a silent vow. I would protect my mother, myself, and my sanity. I would not let this betrayal define me. I would hold my ground, even if it meant the end of a relationship I once cherished. Somewhere in the distance, the neon lights of Vegas flickered, oblivious to the storm they had catalyzed. And I, tired but resolute, prepared for the confrontation that was inevitable. By the time my mother was walking with her cane for the first time since surgery, my phone buzzed relentlessly. Gary had returned early from Vegas, his texts escalating from frustration to outright demand. "We need to talk. I'm coming by your place at 7. This isn't over. You can't just ignore me." I stared at the screen, exhaustion battling anger. No, not tonight. Not ever, I thought. My mother needed me. My priorities were clear. Sure enough, at 7 there was a knock. A knock I didn't answer, another buzz, then a phone call. "I'm outside. Lauren, open the door. This is serious." I refused. I wasn't about to let him dictate terms, not after everything. But the next day, the confrontation escalated. He showed up at my workplace. Gary?" I whispered under my breath, rolling my eyes. There he was, standing in the lobby, perfectly composed, dressed to command attention. He held a small cardboard box like a trophy. "We need to talk," he said loudly, enough for everyone at the front desk to hear. "I have my things, and you have some of mine." I raised an eyebrow. "Your things?" He held up the box. Inside were a few old t-shirts, a phone charger, maybe $20 worth of items. Clearly, it wasn't about the objects. I glanced at the security guards nearby, and the performance hit me for what it was: theater. "Fine," I said evenly. "What exactly do you need back?" "The Roomba," he said, "and the air fryer." "The Roomba my mom bought me for Christmas? The air fryer from my housewarming?" I asked, incredulous. "Those aren't loans. Gifts aren't loans." His face went red. I could see him struggling for control, his entitlement unraveling in public. Then came the tears. Real or not, it was impossible to tell. I thought we had something special. How can you throw it away over one mistake?" "One mistake?" I echoed, my voice cold. "You took my credit card on vacation and tried to spend thousands without asking. That's theft, not a mistake." He grasped for anything to leverage. "You're going to regret this. I know things about you, embarrassing things." "Like what?" I asked, calm but firm, aware of the security guards standing nearby. Like, you still sleep with that stupid bear your grandma made you," he spat, desperation leaking through the performance. I just nodded. One guard stepped closer. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave," he said, gesturing toward the exit. Gary's final gasp of control. "This isn't over, Lauren. You owe me." No, it was over, and I knew it. Walking back to my mother's room later that day, I reflected on the truth laid bare. Gary's sense of entitlement, his manipulative patterns, and his willingness to weaponize my trust were undeniable. I had loved him, but that love had blinded me. Now I had clarity. My mother, smiling faintly as she sipped her tea, looked up at me. "Sweetheart," she said, "anyone who takes advantage of you while you're caring for someone else isn't worth your time. Don't let it happen again." I nodded. That night, I set boundaries. Phone calls ignored, texts muted. My life, my money, my trust, I would protect them all. And somewhere, deep down, I knew. This confrontation wasn't just about Vegas or money or even Gary. It was a turning point, a revelation that love doesn't excuse entitlement, and loyalty doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. In the weeks following the confrontation, Gary didn't give up easily. His messages alternated between guilt-tripping, threats, and absurd attempts to justify his actions. "You ruined everything. I can't pay my bills now. You owe me $3,847 for everything I've ever spent on us. You've traumatized my relationship with money." I read them one by one, sitting in my mother's kitchen while she nursed a cup of tea. Exhaustion no longer dulled my clarity. Each message strengthened it. I did some simple math. Gary made over $80,000 a year. Rent, bills, personal expenses. 3 days in Vegas could not have bankrupted him. This was not financial crisis. This was entitlement, pure and simple. He tried every angle: guilt, sympathy, even threats of legal action. "My lawyer says you committed fraud." I laughed softly. "Please have your lawyer contact mine," I typed, forwarding the absurd claim to my trusted friend, a lawyer who found the entire saga hilarious. No lawyer ever reached out. Then came the final stunt. He showed up at my workplace again, attempting public theater, demanding the return of gifts, trying to humiliate me. But I had grown too strong to be rattled. The Roomba, the air fryer, Irrel Garrett. The performance was his desperation, not my fault. Eventually, Gary faded. His attempts to control, manipulate, and guilt me out of money failed. His friend, Brittany, admitted later that Gary had never reimbursed her for the Vegas expenses he had tried to blame on me. I blocked him, severed ties, and reflected. Slowly, a sense of peace settled in. The red flags had been there all along: forgetting his wallet conveniently, ordering the most expensive items when I was paying, entitlement disguised as charm. I realized the hardest lesson. Trust must be earned, boundaries must be respected, and love is not a license for abuse. Now, 3 months later, my mother is fully recovered. She walks without assistance and laughs at the story of how I stood up to Gary, even while she was high on pain meds. As for me, I'm fine. Dating isn't on my radar right now, and if it ever is, I'll be smarter. Separate finances, clear boundaries, and no one gets my credit card for a girl's trip or any trip ever. And yes, I eventually bought myself a new Roomba with my own card, one that nobody else could touch. I sip my tea, watching my mother garden, the sunlight spilling across the yard. I survived betrayal, manipulation, and entitlement. I protected my family, and in the end, I protected myself. The lesson is clear. Love wisely, trust cautiously, and never sacrifice your own life for someone else's selfishness.